Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 444, 444 episodes later of reselling. Can you believe that? 444 episodes about reselling.
That's right. And today is one of our update episodes, which we love our update episodes because it's where we get to talk about what's going on in our life reselling wise. We get to talk about some interesting things happening in the reselling world in general. I mean, we're going to be talking about stuff today like eBay banning people, growth for eBay, all those different things, some great stuff to be talking about. And then we also get to go over our spicy bolos, things that you should be on the lookout for while you're at garage sales, thrift stores, all those places. So it's going to be a jam-packed episode with lots of great stuff. We love these update episodes. So Orlando, how are things going, man?
They are. It's always a fun ride for me in reselling. The thing is, I have not sourced, right? And I tried. I had mentioned before I went to garage sales, and there's still a part of me that doesn't want to walk into a thrift store. Like in San Diego, we had such a bad taste in our mouth. Remember, there was only that one thrift store that was worth going to, right? And even that thrift store was about a 45-minute drive to get to. And, we didn't like going into the store that shall not be named, known as Goodwill. Salvation Army, even their prices were going up. But I noticed there's a lot. But, I've had people reach out to me that listen to the podcast, and they're saying, hey, how about the swap meets? You should go to the swap meet. There's like stuff every day. And I thought,
yeah. I love the swap meets even in San Diego. Yeah.
Well, see, I guess it's because I went in my early days of reselling. I really didn't know how to spot things out. Maybe if I went now, it'd be different. And then I stay tuned. If you're following us on social media, if you haven't been, you should. We're Pure Hustle Podcast on all platforms and Pure Hustle Cast on Twitter. I do think I'm going to do an Instagram story this Saturday. I'm not sure I'm going to hit the swap meet, but that is what everybody's telling me. I had people in the comments on YouTube saying, hey, garage sales are brutal for me here. Like I go 40 minutes and I go to find one house or two houses and there's not really much. And I go throughout the Bay Area, and it's kind of what I see too when I search things on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. It's not like in San Diego. So if people don't know what I'm talking about, in San Diego, like you can go on Craigslist like on a Saturday or a Friday, and you can find a lot of garage sales. And what we always tell people is make sure you research the night before. So you go on Craigslist and you type in garage sales, or you type in neighborhood sale or community sale, and you would get a decent amount, right? No matter what time of the year it was. Now, the weather is different in San Diego in comparison to San Francisco. I got to tell you, out here, it's, I don't know, I've had more days of rain and damp, nasty, cold, muggy weather. Not muggy, there's not humidity, but just cold, right? So I get why people don't want to do garage sales. We're in San Diego year round, like it's pretty nice, right? The only bad months are maybe late August, September, even into October, it starts getting kind of hot. And so I understand the garage sale thing. So multiple people have reached out and said, hey, Orlando, you should try the swap meets. My view of swap meets has always been, why would I go to a swap meet? Aren't the people resellers there anyways? Like, aren't they going to want top dollar? But what I'm learning is it's just people trying to offload stuff, right? And I think you've mentioned that before, that you've gone and it may be resellers, but they're just trying to do the quick buck. So they're willing to let things go pretty fast.
Sometimes, and it depends. Like if it's like anything, it's you've got to learn the rules of the game, right? Like garage sale is different than thrift stores. And so if you're an excellent person at garage sales, it looks different because, you got negotiation involved more than you would have at thrift stores. And I think swap meets are the same thing. It's still reselling, but it's just there's different rules. It's a different sandbox you're playing in. And so at least from my experience at swap meets, you kind of have two sides of it. Like one side, you get the people who are there every single week and they set up their booth, and it's like either stuff that's, almost like a flea market where it's just stuff that's come from China and they sell the exact same like toys or whatever, or, like they have a food booth. And then you get the people who are there every week and they are like resellers and they're trying to get top dollar. They know what their stuff is worth. And occasionally you could still, everybody's got weaknesses, right? So a person who's got booths set up all the time, they might really know tools, but they might have a handful of, vintage, clothes and stuff too, and they might not know that market. So you still can find the weaknesses at different vendors. But the swap meet game is a little different in the sense that every week there are going to be people who are showing up for just a one and done. Like they're going to be there one day, maybe 2 days, and they're kind of basically trying to have a garage sale at the swap meet. The thing is, you've got to be there and you got to be quick, because the other resellers, they're hawking that, right? Like they're walking around and they see somebody pull up with a car and start unloading stuff. They realize, because they go every week, hey, this isn't a normal booth. This is somebody I haven't seen before, and they're trying to buy things quick. And so I would say, kind of like garage sales, you want to be there early. You want to be the first one. It's the same thing at swap meet. Like, you want to be one of the first person when someone's setting up a booth, if they're a one and done, because they start selling tons of stuff, and then they get this high. And if you get there later in the day, even if they have some good stuff left, they were so used to selling things and getting people offers that they think that they can make more money. And then there's the other end, of course, the very end, they're willing to get rid of stuff for dirt cheap, but it's usually just the junk that's left. So you got to be quick. And so you kind of have to probably go to the same swap meet for like a month or two to really figure out like who are the people who are here every week, what are the booths to stay away from. But then it's nice because then you never have to go look at their booths ever again. You're just kind of walking around and, oh, here's a new guy. You're there.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll venture out. I guess I'll have to. Now, I still think I'm going to hit the thrift stores, because I will say, back in the day, those of you that follow us on social media, you remember I would travel up to the Bay Area to visit family, and I would stop like at Eco Thrift, was one of my favorite stores to stop by, and I would pick up some crazy amounts of good stuff. I remember I would source like $300 worth. I didn't make like 1,000 or 2,000, right? And so maybe there's some of that happening out here. It's time. It is time. It's been too long. Now, I will say, I'm going to finish off my update with this, is somebody had said something in the comments like, Orlando, you should just shut down your entire store and delist everything. And as you find things, relist it, right? You like put it back up, because remember I had mentioned that I gave a ton of stuff away. I donated a ton of stuff. I got rid of a lot of stuff, and it's been a brutal month. It's been brutal. Like, I will sell something and I'm spending like 30 minutes trying to find one item, and then I try to find another item. It takes me 30 minutes, and I've only had to like cancel 2 or 3 items, but it's been rough. It's been rough. I would say to anybody that's moving, you're moving with your inventory. I know you want to keep the sales going, and luckily I've been able to keep the sales going, but you also got to remember you could put your store at risk if you have to cancel too many times. Luckily I haven't had to, but it's gotten kind of sketchy. Like, I've done the whole like print out my shipping label, give myself an extra day to find an item, and then I have found it, and it's been all good. But I've been kind of living on the edge for the last 3 weeks in the reselling. So I tell people, like, be careful. Like, if you're moving stuff, even if you're super organized, there's always a chance. Like, there's these 2 hats I sold. I have no idea. Like, no idea. Like, all my hats were always organized. Same custom SKU label. I mean, I lost $80. Like, somebody had bought a hat for $80 and have no idea where it's at. No idea. And I'm sure one day it's going to be, I'm going to unpack and box and go, oh, there's the hat. There's the $80 I lost out on. So be aware.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a little scary to do a big change to eBay store, because I feel like we've recognized the algorithm
there's that too. Yeah.
The algorithm doesn't like huge changes like that. However, I think there's merit to the idea of just ending all the listings that you have and then slowly relisting, like go tote by tote, because then you don't have to relist everything, right? Like, you don't have to start from scratch, take pictures, just look up the item. This is a 1973, whatever, Astros baseball hat. Boom, you find the one, relist, sell similar, you're good to go, right? So, I think that might be a way to do it quickly. And if you give yourself like, hey, I'm going to do 100 of these a day, you'll be all caught up in like a month. And then that gives you the chance to maybe even do a little bit of, hey, is this the right price? Is this? So I think that'd be a hard thing to do. But in your instance, I think that might be a better case than potentially having to cancel a whole lot more items that get sold.
I just didn't want to lose on the revenue. That was my big thing, right? And so I've been able to keep the revenue going. Because now it's, when you're part-time, it's a little different, right? The fact of doing part-time is you are able to, just save up money for different things. Like, you're not trying to just pay the bills. It's right. And I'm trying to build up my capital. I do want to eventually make a big purchase. I had 35 boxes of manga books I could have bought a week ago. 35 boxes. Okay. And I probably would have had to drop, it probably would have been like $1,500, and I could have done it, but I also have 100 moving boxes in my house. And I thought, what am I going to do? Like, where am I going to put these boxes? Where am I going to put all these books? And so I just was like, you know what? I'm going to have to pass on this. So I need to make sure I take care of stuff. All right, Mike, what's going on with you?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll just riff off of what you were saying earlier as I start mine. You mentioned trying to find garage sales on Facebook Marketplace, that's the worst. I mean, it's just the way it's set up is awful.
It's so bad.
Craigslist is better, but not everybody's posting on Craigslist, especially younger people. We're always going to miss yard sale treasure map. That was the dream map there. But is that what it's called? Yard sale treasure map? Something like that?
Yeah,
yard
that's
sale.
what it's called. Yeah.
Okay.
RAP.
So, we miss you. Come back, please. But, for me, part of it is like I've had to learn the neighborhoods. Like, what are the neighborhoods I want to be in? And we knew those neighborhoods in San Diego where it's like, hey, you go into this neighborhood, even if they're having a community garage sale, like it's going to be rough, right? Like it's not worth it. Whereas like these other neighborhoods, like they tend to maybe have a little bit more money, or they're more established households that have different items. And then there's the neighborhoods that are so rich that they have no idea what they're doing with their items, and it's too expensive, you know. So you know where to go, and so you kind of just have to learn your area, and don't be afraid to just drive around. Like my best, in fact, like my garage sale find this week that was pretty decent was just hey, I'm gonna jump in my car Saturday morning, go for a quick drive in the neighborhoods that I know are decent, and I'm just looking for signs. Because there are a lot of people who aren't posted on any kind of website. They just go out and put it. Or you also got to join local community Facebook groups. Like even though like Facebook Marketplace is where you see a lot of stuff, most of the ads for like the garage sales tend to be like in the, like for my area, it's like, you know, a specific Waco web page or on Facebook, like a group of people who like post all kinds of stuff. What's going on in the neighborhood? Why are cops down here? And I've got dogs for sale. Like those are the things where you'll find a lot of those. So join a couple of groups and don't be afraid to just drive around. In fact, I found one where I saw a garage sale sign. I had to like whip around UE a couple times because there was traffic, and I had to like park weird so I could read the sign what the address was, because it wasn't just like a simple arrow. It just had like a name of like the street and the address. So I like finally got it in my phone. I drove there, and they had a handful of stuff. Like it was a little bit older house that had, you know, some older kind of antique vintage stuff, but you could also tell they had kids there, like grandkids or something. So there were some things that were from theirs that I was able to pick up. So one of the things I got was a Nintendo DS, like one of the pink ones. And unfortunately, it didn't have anything with it, right? It didn't have a charger. It didn't have any games. And so I was able to pick it up for pretty cheap. I think I paid like $5 for it, which is fine for me because I have a charger and I have games that I could test. I got to pull it out of one of my bins. But all I got to do is plug it in, make sure it works, good to go. I have even purchased batteries for Game Boys and DSs before, really cheap off of Amazon, pay like $5-6 for a battery, and then you could sell it really good, because a lot of these are selling for $40-50, and so for a $5 pickup, even without the games and stuff, I should be able to flip it no problem for close to 50. And then they also had this really cool Hamilton Beach milkshake maker, right? Like one of the ones that like spins the like old fashioned one.
Those are good money.
Yeah, and it's like one of the ones that's like green, so it's like vintage. Like I need to like do a little bit more research because I was trying to look up the model, but it's all like scratched out on the plate on the back. I mean, they've made these models all the way back. It looks like from the 30s up to like the 70s. Like they've had these,
or they made them look retro too. You got to be careful with those.
Yeah, there are some newer, but that was like my thought when I purchased this. Is I found a handful that were like anniversary editions on eBay, which those look a little bit like newer. Like you can really tell they're new, but I was like, worst case scenario, I do the research, I find out this is an anniversary version, like they'll still sell for like $40, $50. Yeah, so true. Again, just paying a couple bucks for it, it's like it's a no-brainer. And if it is a vintage one, like if I could prove like, hey, this is like from the 40s or something, or from the 50s, even if it's just for parts, like those sell for decent money for parts. If you got like a working one, man, I saw some for going over $200-300 depending on the condition that they were in. But even for parts, they're selling for $60. So, I mean, I'm not going to lose on it. So I was happy about that. And then it's been a while since I've done like a big book set. Like in the past, I've done those like, is it Time Life? Like they have the different series like Ocean Animals or Civil War.
I do not want to pick any of those up anytime soon.
I've done actually pretty decently on those in the past, but yeah, it's usually you don't get them in good condition, and then the shipping is a nightmare. I typically ship with those medium mail just because if I'm shipping like 12 or 15 of those books, it's going to be a big, heavy box. And so you tend to get the cheapest rate when you go media mail on those. But I found some Reader's Digest, and I haven't really sold a lot of Reader's Digest. But this was like a 12 set of like young adult, like best young adult, whatever. And they were going for pretty decent money. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say they were around $40 to $60 were what the comps were for on those. So again, paying $5 ish for the whole lot. I mean, I bundled a bunch of stuff together, so I was just assuming it was like an average sale price of like $4 to $5 per item that I picked up at this garage sale. But yeah, this whole lot of books. And worst case scenario, like I could throw them into my classroom, but I think they'll sell. And it's not so many. Like 12 Reader's Digest books is a lot smaller than like 20 like Time Life series books. So yeah, not too bad. I mean, I did pretty good on that just for like one that wasn't listed, you know, and that just goes to show that sometimes your best bet is just knowing where to drive. And I kind of look at it like fishing. Like my wife and I have been walking along the river walk we have here in the evenings just to get a little bit of exercise. And I really enjoy fishing. And I love like when I'm walking by and I see people fishing. And every time we walk by, I'm like, I just want to see someone catch a fish. And we've yet to see someone pull up a fish just in our walking. And it's one of those things that makes me think like some things that are fun and good to do sometimes just involve like, is it going to hit or is it not going to hit? Right. Like it's not like if every time you went fishing, you were guaranteed to pull up a fish every time you threw it, it wouldn't be as fun. Right. You would kind of lose some of the, strategy and what you're doing and the patience. And I get that if you're a full-time reseller, I mean, you got a bottom line you got to reach, right? But I think if you're a qualified or not qualified, but if you're just a competent reseller, you should be able to reach those numbers you need to reach without relying on like home runs all the time. Like if you're relying on like finding those home runs every single, Saturday that you go to a garage sale, you're probably in trouble. You need to have some other ways of sourcing inventory. But if you kind of look at it like, hey, I'm going fishing, I'm going to drive this neighborhood, see if I can catch a good one, right? Like it kind of just changes your mindset. And so if you don't end up getting any in that neighborhood, okay, let me try the other fishing spot. Let me try the other neighborhood. It kind of keeps that excitement going without I can't believe I didn't find any garage sales today. Because again, I have other ways of sourcing. I've got the bins not too far. I've got Amazon return pallet type stores nearby. I've got thrift stores that I can go to. I have other ways of sourcing that aren't just I have to score a home run every time I go to a garage sale. So that gets to be kind of like the icing on the cake.
Oh, I can't wait to go sourcing. Hearing your stories, it just it's one of those things. I seriously, when's the last time I went sourcing? Like, I don't even remember. It has to be before Christmas sometime. Maybe even before Thanksgiving.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to open up all your boxes in your living room, and I want you to be like, oh, I'm at a garage sale. All this stuff is free, but I have to get it listed in the next 2 weeks in order to take it all for free.
And by the way, if you're listening for the first time, you're like, why should I listen to this podcast? This guy hasn't even gone sourcing for 6 months. Understand, that's all I ever did was go sourcing. And then I had to move and I had death piles upon death piles. So Mike and I have always been about keeping it real, documenting what we do. And that's just, I got to be honest about it. Like that's where we're at. But the time for sourcing is near. So, hey, before we move on, if you're like me, you hate bookkeeping. And the fact that it is April Fools when we are recording this and we're dropping this tomorrow, don't be a fool when it comes to taxes, right? Keep as much money as you can. Make sure to find every deduction that you can. And one way to do that is by using My Reseller Genie. So My Reseller Genie is a great product made by resellers for resellers. It allows you to import all your eBay data, all your Poshmark data, keep track of all your inventory, and it's just a great resource. So when it comes around to tax time and maybe you're stressing and going, what am I going to do? Guess what? There's a 15% off for the first month by using our code Pure Hustle. And by doing that, you'll be able to get started on that road of sanity with your bookkeeping. So again, use our code Pure Hustle and you'll get 15% off the first month. And by the way, we're still doing the giveaway. We eventually will announce our winners. Keep dropping your comments. We still have to announce our winner for February. Now we have to announce our winner for March. And so we will plan on doing that by next episode. All right. So you got some random stories?
Moving into our random stories here. All right. So speaking of books, like I do pretty good at the Goodwill bins we have here, picking up books, and I pick up books at other places as well. It's not like a guaranteed every time. I'm not like an Amazon book. At one point I had one of those scanners and I was going into Goodwills and scanning all the books. That just wasn't the hustle for me. I didn't enjoy that very much. But I do enjoy going to estate sales, especially, and looking through all the old books, trying to find something that's valuable. And I recently discovered another potential opportunity for me. So you know how you go to a lot of estate sales and or like garage sales, and there's like certain books you're guaranteed to run into. You know, like,
oh yeah,
you're gonna run into like Nicholas Sparks books, and you're gonna run into this, and you're gonna like, there's certain books that's like it's guaranteed. Well, there's a bookstore not too far from me that is one of the things that they do is they offer you store credit. So it's a used bookstore, but they offer you store credit if you sell books to them or like give them books. And the store credit is half of the suggested retail value, like the MSRP or whatever on the back. They'll give you half of that for store credit if it's a book that they want. So like there's certain books, it's like Gone Girl, right? Like they've got like 1 million copies of Gone Girl. They don't want any more of those. But if it's other books that are popular, but they maybe don't have any in stock. And so my thought is, and again, this wouldn't necessarily be like, hey, can be a full-time hustle for me, because I think it would just become a grind and it wouldn't be worthwhile. But if I know the books that they're looking for that are easier to find than the books that I'm looking for, I can still pick up those dirt cheap books at garage sales where you're picking up like 10 books for a couple bucks at a garage sale, or I'm at the bins and I find some, or I'm at an estate sale and I know there's really no resale value in it for me. Like I could sell this book for $4 on eBay. By the time I list it and all the stuff, like I'm taking a loss. I'm working for pennies for an hour. But if I can gather up a couple of totes full of these, and every so often, like maybe once a month, take them to the store, I'm doing them a service because I'm getting them books that they want on their shelf because they're popular. And then I'm getting store credit that I can then use to kind of upgrade into books that are resellable, right? So I haven't done it yet. It's one of those things that I'm just like churning in my mind of, again, I don't think this can be like, hey, I'm going to be able to like scale my reselling by doing this. But if every month I can get $100, $200 in store credit at this store, buy a couple of books essentially for free that I can then turn into more, like it definitely has a potential to be an extra $100 to $200 that I can make, So sure. I'm excited about it. I want to give it a shot. I don't want it to become tedious and a chore. But again, I'm already seeing all these books, and if I already know what to look for, throw it in my box that I have in the garage, and once it's full, take it in, get my store credit, and then I can purchase books that actually do have a little bit more resale value. So yeah, I'm excited to give it a try. I will definitely follow up in the next few episodes as far as, was it worthwhile or is it just a grind? And I'm also interested to know from other people, do you use services like that where it's like exchange?
Well, I just think about how much money you're going to be able to make. Like the thing with credits, like you don't know where it's going to land. Like I remember with Shelf Quick, so Sell Quick, Ship Quick. We used to go and we would get store credit. Like if you brought like an item into the thrift store, they'd give you like a $10 credit or $20. I forget what it was. But the thing was like you could turn that.
Can you go from the mic just a tad? There you go. You're coming in pretty hot.
Okay, you want me to start all over?
No, you're good. Just keep going.
Okay, I don't know.
You're just coming in hot.
Okay, sorry. So what I recognized that it was that you could do a lot with that, right? You buy 5 items with that $10 credit for $2 a piece. You can turn that into $100 $200. So never shy away from store credit. Thing's a good deal. Now, okay, so I'll get to my random story. And Mike, what do you think? What do you remember was the thing I got the hardest time about when I would go out sourcing? I would put it on Instagram or on YouTube.
Yeah, it's you would negotiate too hard for sure.
Okay, all right. So now real world application, right? So I was wondering like if I could do this in the real world. So if you guys don't know, like I work at a school and I'm in charge of a few things at the school, and the contract for the photocopiers came up. And I was like, I wonder if I could apply the same things, right? I mean, it's not, negotiation is not, I don't think, any different whether you're negotiating something at a garage sale or you're negotiating a new car or you're negotiating maybe a house, I don't know. Okay, but I was like, I wonder what I could get here. So the contract was up, and I told the guy, I'm like, hey, I really want to keep your business. I really like to stay in business with you, but we got these machines, and I'm kind of like, competitively, there's other companies out there. And the guy was like, no, I want to make a deal. I like to make a deal today. And I knew that he wanted to make a deal by the next day, because the next day the quarter ended, right? It's kind of like garage sales, right? You show up at the end of the morning, they got to offload stuff, so you can probably get things at a cheaper price, right? Same principles apply. So I ended up asking like, hey, so what can we do? And the guy's like, you know what? Let me think about that. And I used the silent method. I didn't say anything. And he goes, you know what? I can upgrade your machines. I was like, all right, let's upgrade the machines. I'm like, hey, can we throw some things in there? We've been paying for like, when you photocopy and they staple, right? You can next level photocopying. And I said, hey, we've been paying for the cartridges. Can we just get that all thrown in free along with the toner that's already free? And can we get hole punching on both copiers? And can we pay less than we did before? I just wanted to see how far I could push it. And the guy's like, I don't know. Let me talk to my boss. Went into the room, talked to his boss, came back. He's like, I can do that. Okay. I said, all right, how about this? Can we also up the amount of color paper that we print? And can we also up the amount of black and white allowance of paper that we get every month? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, hey, can we double both of those and for the same price? So I just kept pushing. And the guy's like, let me talk to my boss. I'll come back. He's like, yeah, we could do that. And then I told him, I said, I'm kind of concerned because this is too good of a deal. You're saying yes to everything. But I already did my homework, and I knew that what I was getting was pretty competitive. So then I said, you would think the negotiation's over. I'm already getting something for a lot cheaper, better product, longer, right? This is all garage sale stuff. At garage sales, it'd be like, hey, if I throw in this, can we get a better deal? Can we work something out? Can you work on the price a little bit? What about if we throw this into the pile, right? The same thing. And then I said, hey, I saw that you had an escalation clause on here where, if you pay a certain, that interest rates go up based on, how the market, and not interest rates, but, the cost of items go up based on interest rates and so on. I said, can we just lock in a certain price at a certain amount of time and, kind of make sure that over 3 years I'm paying the same and maybe reduce the amount that goes up? And he's like, I can do that. And then got a great deal, and it's a great company. Fantastic. Really happy about it. But it was one of those things where I was like, hey, if everybody could just, read, never split the difference, right? Regardless if you're a part-time reseller, like I think those skills will help you, right? At one time I didn't use the line, like, how am I supposed to do that, right? That's the line for never split the difference when they give you an offer and you're like, I don't know if I can afford that. I did throw the line, like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do that with the budget that I have, and ended up working out. So I really encourage people, like, don't be scared to negotiate. You never know the deal you're going to get. I think about this all the time. I had mentioned the pods that I had used to move those storage containers that you fill up and then you ship them out. And I remember I got high quotes on those, and I negotiated those down. I ended up saving like $700 to $800. But I wonder how many people just accept whatever's given to them, right? They don't negotiate. They feel uncomfortable. And I encourage everyone that's listening here, never hurts to ask, right? What's the worst they can do? They can say no, right? It's not like they're going to turn away business from you. They want that business. They want to lock you in. And so always be willing to ask for the better deal, whether it be at a garage sale, a thrift store. We've even had people on the podcast and books that we've read that say, even when you go to shop retail, ask if you can get a better deal. Not that it's going to be guaranteed. And obviously you don't want to get anybody in trouble or fired for giving you an illegal detail, but discount. But you want to make sure that you're getting the best that you can with the money that you have. And it's the same thing with reselling, because every dollar that you save is another dollar that you can put towards sourcing to make more profit. So just keep that in mind. I don't know. You think I negotiated too hard there, Mike?
No, I mean, those types of companies, I mean, that's really how they run, is that they're selling a contract, right? And so they're trying to get as much out of you as they can. And if you're wise, you're trying to do the same thing for your business, right? Like you're trying to get as much as you can for your business. And so that's just how that works. And if it's done right, both parties walk away happy, right? That's good negotiation. So, I mean, obviously they're not going to be able to do anything where they're like, hey, our company is now losing money. We're not making money off you as a client. We're losing money with you as a client. They might not be making as much. Maybe instead of making, I don't know, throw a random number out, instead of making $10,000 a year off you as a client, maybe now they're only making $8,000 a year off you as a client. But that's better than losing you as a client, right? And so, you know, a lot of times there's more wiggle room with those things than people realize. So, yeah, you definitely want to try and do that. I mean, heck, even small things like, you know, I recently, it seems petty, but I recently called Amazon and got a credit added to my account because for like the third time we had a same day delivery not show up. And it's like, okay, at a certain point, it's like, oh, well, it'll be here tomorrow. And it's like, right. But, you know, Amazon, for those of you who are like, you know, kind of keeping up with how Amazon shipping goes, which we've talked about a lot on the podcast, is important for us as resellers because what becomes the norm for the kind of normie people buying stuff through like Amazon is what's expected on things like eBay and other platforms like free shipping or, you know, 2-day shipping. Like those things became kind of just industry standard. And so as companies are trying to do like next day delivery and same day delivery, you know, you got to keep an eye on that as a reseller. And as they're continually not meeting those expectations, it was like, hey, you know, I added extra items to my order because it has to be over a certain dollar amount in order to get it same day. And I wouldn't have done that had I known I was going to have to wait an extra day to get these items. I would have just, you know, purchased it normally. So, yeah, you know, got a credit for that. And it's not that I'm trying to be that, you know, annoying customer, but at the same time, I feel like we're held to high standards as sellers on eBay. If items don't go out, if I just tell my buyer like, hey, sorry, I know I told you that it would be shipped out same day, but I'm going to ship it out tomorrow. And those things do happen. But when they happen, you can't be upset when a customer's like, no, like you need to find a way to make this right because I bought it expecting it to be here at a certain time. So, you know, those same things apply. And in my mind, it's like my call wasn't even about the credit as much as they need to know, they need to inform their carriers that aren't, you know, following through with what they're supposed to follow through. Because, you know, those things need to be fixed for people, you know. So anyways, that just goes to show, had I not have made that phone call, I wouldn't have got that credit and I would have just been stewing in my anger about Amazon failing with shipping, which honestly is maybe not the worst thing for us as resellers, you know.
No, I didn't even know you could that's a real thing. Like that you can call, because I've had that happen before and it's like it'll arrive the next day. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
like
so here's the
inconvenience.
Here's the trick. And this is a Pure Hustle Podcast exclusive. I'll share it because if you're on the app and you're trying to like ask a question, it automatically takes you to AI chat and it only gives you like options you can choose from. So it's like, which item are you concerned about? So you click on the item. They're like, what's your issue? And it's like not delivered or when is it going to come? And then they go through like, sorry, this hasn't arrived. If it hasn't arrived by this date, you can get a refund. Can I help you with anything else? And it's like, no, like I need this. And they're like, it starts the loop over again. So when you first get asked, there's a place to type in. I just kept typing in like, I want to talk to somebody on the phone. And finally it's like, okay, like, would you like a representative to call you? And it's like, yes. It's like, would you like to try this first? We can handle a lot of things. No, call me. And then they called me. So
no, call me. Okay.
You got to tell that AI what's up, man.
Yeah. Well, until AI becomes, you know, Terminator status, and then they remember that conversation you had.
Hey.
So it's good old Skynet coming after you.
That's right.
All right. Hey, let's keep moving forward. Are you ready to talk about some reselling topics?
Of course. Here we go. eBay is poised for growth. eBay direct grading. eBay is banning people, and Goodwill finds closed. All this and more on Reseller News. Rolando, take it away.
That was so natural the way you said that. Like,
oh yeah, man, I'm polished. 444 episodes, man. Are you kidding me?
That was pretty polished. So, all right. So I thought this was interesting. Like, I don't know. You know, we've talked about seeking alpha, right? Seeking alpha is like, I don't know. Like, I feel like people that like really like care about investing like read Seeking Alpha, or am I just
is that just like school? A crypto? Is that a crypto bro group that you're in?
No, not no. Seeking Alpha is like old school, like investment, like news and stuff like that. So,
sounds fishy.
No, what? I think you were the one that said it. That it was. I'm pretty sure if we somehow could like search all our old like podcasts, you would say that Seeking Alpha was like the one that most people read. Like it's kind of like people read Forbes or they read whatever, but Seeking Alpha is one of them. But I thought this article was interesting. So this article talks about how eBay is refocusing on a niche segment insulated from the scale of e-commerce giants. So for a long time, we've known that Amazon and Walmart and like Temu and all that, they're killing it, right? They're making far more money than eBay's making. But eBay has like this very special kind of place that they're in, that they continue, right, to be successful. Now, they don't have as many buyers as before, but you know, they're still making revenue and we're still selling on there. We're still doing pretty well. And said, I'll read a couple portions here. It says, since becoming eBay CEO, Jamie Iannone has refocused the company on its core business as a third-party online marketplace, specializing in non-new and pre-owned items or merchandise. Management has divested businesses that don't align with this direction, such as its classifieds and exchange ticket business, to avoid distractions from its new strategy. And I read that, I go, you know, that's right. That is true. Like over the last few years, eBay has kind of done away with all these like side hustles it was doing. And it seems like it is really focusing on used goods, right? That's different than the previous CEO. Remember the previous CEO, we were trying to do like, be like Amazon. We were trying to do managed delivery. Remember it was like, we were going to ship stuff to the warehouse, kind of like Amazon FBA. And it's interesting. It continues here. Unlike e-commerce companies like Amazon and other Chinese companies, which heavily rely on sales volume to make their business economically viable, eBay operates in a segment where customers' needs are unique and authentic. Merchandise in this segment are usually higher priced pre-owned items such as collectibles, fashion, electronics, and parts. So while you can buy these items at a fixed price, just like any other e-commerce platform, eBay's main value proposition is its auction-like marketplace, allowing buyers and sellers to determine the best price for an item. eBay has introduced value-adding services that provide guarantees to the buyers and sellers. So it just continues on, and it's pretty much saying that even if it's not a niche segment, always bet on leaders. So what it's saying is within the segment, eBay is refocused on multiple specialized companies also operate. So it goes on to all the other companies, but it basically what it's arguing is that eBay has set itself up in a place for success, that even though these companies Amazon will continue to grow, even though Temu is going to be big, or Alibaba and all these companies, eBay is still in a good place because eBay has kind of captured that used market, right? No one comes close to eBay. Poshmark, Mercari, Etsy, you know, I don't know, Vinted or whatever the other companies, like none of them come close to eBay. So, you know, a lot of people are getting down on eBay, right? We talked about in the last few months how people are like reselling it's the end and eBay's dying in. I would argue that no, I think eBay has really poised itself for growth and moving forward. What are your thoughts on this, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good. I think that's probably right in the idea of bet behind leaders, because that's really the key. I mean, I always think back to Warren Buffett and his strategies. I read like a ton of his essays that he wrote and published, and then like speeches to shareholders and things during the Berkshire Hathaway like meetings. And one of the things that was really big about Warren Buffett, which made him unique, is he bought companies based off of, one, they had to be undervalued. And then two, he had to trust the leader, right? Like he would meet with the CEO, he'd meet with the team. And if it was a person he believed in, then it was a company he would purchase. And if it was a leader he didn't believe in, he didn't care how good the product was or if the company seemed undervalued unless he was going to come in and replace that leader. And I think there's a lot to be said there with that. I think it's just going to take time to see, like, is this going to pan out with eBay? Are they really going to focus in long term? Because one of the problems with so many C-suite type employees is they are very short term, right? Like they're looking at like 4 to 5 years. How can I make bar graph go up short term so that I can get this under my belt and move on to the next position where I make even more? And so a lot of times companies have to kind of look at it as, hey, we're okay with actually for the next 4 to 5 years, you know, graph go down. But we're leaning out as a company. We're becoming more efficient. And in 20 years from now, we're going to be 10 times better than we are right now. Like, right? Like that is the type of leader. It takes courage, because to be able to convince stockholders that, hey, this path that we're taking right now is going to be the long-term best path. And so, yeah, I mean, if they're, if Seeking Alpha is saying that it's good leadership that they're betting on, let's hope that's the case. I'd like to see eBay continue to capture a younger market and then really laser focus in on what they do well and stop trying to do everything else.
No, it's true. It's true. All right. Hey, this other one's just a quick update. So if you're into selling cards and you have cards that are worth more than $250, I think this is a good idea that eBay has come up. It's basically eBay. This comes from Sports Collectors Daily. It says, eBay users who spot a trading card they think should be authenticated and graded can now have it done right from the listing. Individual raw cards that don't carry autographs and are priced at $250 and up on eBay can be purchased and submitted for authentication and grading in one transaction as part of a new partnership between the two companies. eBay has already started rolling out the new option, but it may take a few weeks to fully roll out across all listings. But sellers will have to ensure they include more than 2 photos of the card to make them eligible to be sent to PSA. So to me, this is a win, right? I mean, sometimes you want to go out there and you want to grade things before you send it into eBay, but I know I really like it. I think it keeps eBay really competitive. And again, eBay seems like even remember with the sneakers, how they ended up offering like no fees for shoes over 100, and then they offered authentication. I think eBay continues to find ways to, compete against the competition. So anyways, this is a good thing, especially those of you that are trying to collect new cards or even old cards. I have old cards right now that I want to get graded, but maybe I just won't grade them. We'll see what happens. All right. I don't know how you're going to land on this one about eBay banning people. So years ago, in the early days of Bitcoin, there was this guy named Ross Ulbricht, and he was a guy that ran Silk Roads, and a lot of nefarious stuff happened on Silk Road. Basically like $200 million.
Essentially a black market, right?
It was a black market, yeah. I love this article. This is from Bitcoin.com, whatever news says. The former Boy Scout turned drug lord hinted at a return to e-commerce. Well, what ended up happening with him, I don't know if you guys know, he ended up serving 2 life sentences, and then he just got pardoned by the recent administration back in January. And I guess he tried to sell on eBay. So he was trying to sell on eBay, and it says on Tuesday, Albrecht expressed his frustration with online auction site eBay when it failed to verify his identification for more than a week. He had been trying to auction off some personal belongings. Then on Wednesday, Albrecht finally got the hint. eBay knew about his past and didn't want him on the site, so he thought about launching his own competing platform. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. Like, I didn't know that eBay did background checks. I mean, yes, this is high profile, but still, like, do they have in the database, like, if it was like the Menendez brothers, if they were set free and they try to sell stuff on eBay, would it like flag them? I thought like eBay was like anybody could sell, right? We've always said that, like, even if you serve time, it's a great avenue to be able to rebuild your life. But I don't know. Maybe there's more to the story. I don't know. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like it's a good thing because it keeps, not saying that Ross Ulbricht is a scammer. We can all have our opinions about him, but it keeps scammers from being on eBay, right? So to me, I do like that barrier of entry. So yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure where I land on that. I'd have to probably sit down and kind of think through, because I get it. Like we talked about, like back when the some of the recent wars have started, and I don't want to go too much into it just because, you talk about certain things on YouTube and it definitely, it prevents you from being monetized and things like that. So, yeah. But we talked about, people selling, spent ammunition from, countries in the East and various things like, uniforms and stuff. And it's like, okay, like yeah. there's a certain morality question, but then again, it's on the side of like, but how far do you push this? Right. Cause like, I don't know where I land. Cause I do enjoy the idea of like anybody could sell, right? Like kind of having a free market and free items. Like I don't want to be told, like, if you're a World War II historian and you're like, I would love to have like some medals and some memorabilia from like the Allied forces, but I'd also love to have some of like the memorabilia from the Axis side, just so for my collection to show like this is history. I bought these things. And if eBay says like, no, you actually can't sell any of the patches that has a certain symbol on it because it's hate. And it's like, well, sure. Like there's an element where it's like you're trying to protect, you don't want just vile things to be purposely put out. But at the same time, if you just curate to say like anything controversial can't be sold, well, that's going to change depending on who's in charge, right? You talk about selling war protest pins. Okay. And it's like,
Yeah.
whatever side you land on that, like, I think people should be able to collect what they want to collect in that. But if you were to say like, hey, well, this side is currently in power, this political group's currently in power, and so we aren't going to allow anything like that to be sold. And then the power switches to the other side. Well, now you guys can't sell this stuff. And it's like, I don't know, where do you draw a line? Like, I do think there is a moral line of like, this stuff probably is like just against humanity to sell. Like, you're starting to violate like things, but then it's like, where is that line? And because I would imagine he's trying to get on and sell things. I doubt he's trying to come on and sell, create another black market. I would hope he has learned whatever lessons from that side. But it's like, there are a ton of people who have, he's got a huge following, right? And people would love to be able to get like legit memorabilia that's not illegal stuff, but is from him. Just like somebody wants like a signed Taylor Swift guitar, like just because it's like that person that they're really interested in following. So it's like, should he be allowed to sell his stuff? Or it's like, no, I'm sorry, you've been blacklisted. You can't sell your stuff. And it's just, I don't know. It's blurry. I don't know enough about the situation to like come down hard one way or the other. But it does bring up some interesting questions for sure.
Yeah, so I just thought it was interesting. All right, so this next one, even though this is not an April Fool's, okay, because this is dropping on April 2nd, and people have been talking about this on the YouTubes, especially in the reselling space. But online marketplace Goodwill Finds is no more. So this comes from the Retail Touchpoints website. It says GoodwillFinds.com, the online marketplace operated as an affiliate of Goodwill Industries, appears to have ceased operations. A message on the platform's homepage states that the site has stopped accepting orders as of March 28 and redirects customers to the auction-style resale site, shopgoodwill.com. So I don't know if you remember, we did have an episode about this, how there was Shop Goodwill, and then what they did is they allowed thrift stores to kind of like set up their own kind of like e-commerce website, right? So like it was eBay, but instead of it being resellers, it was each Goodwill like was able to sell on that platform. And so it says Goodwill Finds was launched in October 2022 in a bid by the 120-year-old thrift store chain to grab a larger piece of the growing online resale market. Goodwill would list items on the site and ship the inventory directly to customers. This model often provided better margins for operators than on eBay-style auction marketplace like shopgoodwill.com, but it appears the new marketplace failed to find traction both within Goodwill organization and among consumers who have complained in recent months about unreasonably high prices and expensive shipping costs. And I find this interesting. I saw people on social media saying, you guys don't know this, but I was killing it on the Goodwill Finds. I was buying like stuff all day long, sourcing on there all day long, and flipping on eBay. And so I wonder what kind of dent is going to put in people's businesses, because I'm sure some people are highly dependent on this. On the other side, I also wonder, like, is this telling of like that, hey, we're kind of worried about things going to Goodwill, and is Goodwill going to go back to like just being brick and mortar? Right now, they still have, right, their original website that they were doing this, shopgoodwill.com, but I don't know. I know thrifting is still big, but I wonder how many people that are like thrifters like to source online. I don't know. I
think it takes away from what it is. Like every time I go into a Goodwill, right, they're advertising, Goodwill online, Shop Goodwill, Goodwill Finds. Like they advertise those things like every 2 seconds over the intercom. And when I look around, it's like, one, there's resellers. Two, there's like people who are like just trying to do what a lot of us do and just get a good bargain, because it's like they're not trying to resell, but it's like, hey, I need some sporting equipment for my kids, or I need a jacket for an interview I'm going into, and I don't want to spend $200 on one. I'm going to go to Goodwill and get a blazer. There's those people. And then there's like the thrifters, like the college age kids, the Zoomers who are like going because it's a trendy thing to do. And when they're in there looking through racks, they're not thinking like, oh, I'm going to go on this website and go to Goodwill online. If they're going to do that, they're going to Poshmark, right? Like, so I don't think they had the markets. Like you got to know. Yeah, you gotta know your clientele. And I just don't think people going in there, if you're a person trying to make ends meet, and so you're doing school shopping for your kids at a Goodwill, or you are like the thrifter going because it's trendy to do, you're not excited at all about the idea of like, well, I guess I can go on this website and look for stuff. Like that's not what's drawing those people. So yeah, it just seemed like it was kind of doomed to fail. Unless, I mean, they're already successful on eBay. I feel like tons of books and stuff that I buy are sold from Goodwill. So it just, they have a market when they have the right stuff, but trying to be their own thing just seemed like it wasn't for their clientele.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are celebrating about this happening. So, all right, before we move forward, in case you're wondering, how are we able to produce 444 episodes for free? We've never had a paywall. We've never asked people to subscribe to our channel for a certain fee. It's always been free. And the reason being because we have amazing listeners who have supported us on Patreon. And being that support on Patreon allows you to jump into our Discord. And our Discord is always growing with different kinds of resellers, whether it be Amazon, Depop, Poshmark, Vintage, Retail Arbitrage, whatever it is, they're joining. So if you haven't yet supported us on Patreon, please do so. It is patreon.com/pureazapodcast, or you go to the link below. If you're wondering how much, you're like, wow, are you guys like $30? Are you $50? No, $5.55 a month. That's $5.55 a month. An incredible deal. So if you want to come on over and join the Discord, join our Patreon, patreon.com/pureazapodcast, or go to the link below. As I've said before, we're on all social media. We are Pure As a Podcast. We are Pure As a Cast on Twitter. If you ever want to let us know how you're doing, or have a question, or you want to share a hustle of the week that we share on our themed episodes, or maybe even a bolo, go to pureasapodcast@gmail.com. That's pureasapodcast@gmail.com. And I want to say, always grateful for everyone that watches on the YouTubes and listens on the podcast. But if you've listened to our podcast and you haven't once come on over, hit that subscribe button. Just hit that subscribe. You don't have to ever watch us again. You can keep listening to podcasts, but we're trying to get to 10K by the end of the month, and it would truly be helpful for us. There's a lot of new things that we're going to start unlocking once we get to that place. And last of all, if you've enjoyed the podcast and you found it really helpful, please make sure to go over to iTunes, give us 5 stars, leave us a review, because it really does help us in the algorithm. We continue to grow our reach, and we want to continue being the #1 reselling podcast on there. And we are the most reviewed podcast on there. Thanks to everybody that tunes in. All right, Mike, let's talk about some bolos. Bolo. What's your bolo?
All right. So before I give my bolo here, just a question for you, Orlando. So when you say on the YouTubes, is that just like a fun, clever thing you're saying, kind of like on the interwebs?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I figured as much, but I was like, it's a singular tube. There's one tube, and it's for you. Okay. So my bolo is I've actually, maybe I sold one sewing machine. I can't remember. I don't think so. I've sold a lot of parts to sewing machines. And I've heard, we've had actually some hustles of the week where people have sold like big, very expensive old sewing machines. And I just don't know enough about them. But what I do know is manuals or specific extensions or attachments can be very, very valuable and are much easier to ship. And one of the ones that I have found a few times that have been very valuable, and I've recently found one at a garage sale, is the foot controller. I'm assuming it's for speed. It's like a speed controller, like you step on it and it makes it go or turns it on. Those, especially for vintage ones, if you can get ones, from the 70s or before, where you're pushing that pedal, those sell for incredible money. I mean, you can easily make anywhere from like $50 to $100 on those, depending on what model, what condition it's in. And it's easy to take a picture of. It's easy to put in a box and ship. And you're not shipping a, 80-pound sewing machine and it built into a desk or something. So, I would say bolo is, especially like the Singer ones, if you can find some vintage Singer, the foot pedals, a lot of times those are separated from the sewing machine for whatever reason. People have it in another box, or they have it in a room if you're at an estate sale and there's just lots of sewing stuff. You can grab a few of those and not necessarily snag the sewing machine unless the sewing machine is also vintage and worth it. That's just a market I haven't gotten into very much. What about you, Orlando? What's your bolo?
So it's kind of interesting because, we've had so many bolos over the years, right? Like tons and tons of bolos. And I'm sure we've talked about this brand, and I would say it became a non-bolo But since moving to the Bay Area where people are cold all the time, people wear jackets, I see North Face stuff everywhere. Now, I do know part of that is because of Ross. Like Ross carries a lot of North Face now, and it's not like you have to go to the North Face store anymore. But I got to tell you, I've been selling some North Face jackets recently. So I don't know if it's coming back to being trendy, whatever it is. I would definitely do your research. But I would not, what I used to do at thrift stores, that I would go through stuff, and if I saw North Face, I wouldn't pick it up. North Face became like the Tommy Bahama shirts for me, right? That used to be popular and then kind of died. They became the Allen Edmond shoes that died. But now I'm like, all right, I probably need to start paying attention to North Face. It's trendy because everybody I see here in the Bay Area, like people are wearing North Face everywhere. But I'm pretty sure there are people looking for vintage ones, and that's the ones that I've been selling have been vintage North Face. So that is my bolo. I know it's super generic. I know it's blast for the past, but I do think there's something to be said about, things cycle through, right? Trends die and they come back, and this might be coming back.
And I think it's interesting that you bring up North Face because
The North Face.
My wife and I are like reality TV show junkies. We almost don't watch any TV shows, but like we love Survivor, we love Big Brother, we love those types of shows. The Challenge. There's one show that just is relatively recent. I think it's within the last year or so. I think it may be this last year. It's called The Summit, and The Summit is kind of one of those reality shows. People are trying to make it to the top of a mountain and then voting people off and all that. And the show is like entire product placement North Face. Like everything they're wearing is North Face. The tent's giant North Face. When they do like their panning shot, it's North Face. So clearly North Face is putting out some money in advertisement, which tells me they wouldn't be doing that if they were like a dead and dying company, right? Like there must be a resurgence. Yeah. I'm not saying that like, hey, this TV show is what's causing it to surge, but it is a clue that there's money being spent on advertisement for it, which tells me that there must be some kind of movement happening. So that's interesting.
It is. I'm telling you, it's everywhere. I could go right now, like to a shopping area, and I'll see at least 5 people wearing North Face. It's just interesting. All right. Hey, so we are approaching the end here. What are you looking forward to, Mike?
Man, I guess I should always prepare for that. We talk about it every episode. I guess just more of the same. I mean, I've been enjoying doing a little bit of sourcing. That's been fun. That's probably it. Sourcing and listing, make more money. We ended March, and I'm still on track for my 10% growth. So I'm starting April, and last month was actually a little bit lower than I was expecting to hit. But I did so much better in like January and February that it made up for March. So I'm trending right where I want to be. So I want to increase a little bit in April, so that way I can have that buffer. It was nice having a little bit of buffer from January, February, moving into a slower March for me. So what about you, Orlando?
Okay. So I don't know if this is looking forward to, but I am just letting people know I am changing my shipping. I used to do same day shipping, and I'm going to have to do a next business day shipping. I found it like with everything going on, it's too busy, too crazy. And I'm really worried about my top rated seller being decimated. And we had a whole episode about like the beauty of eBay is that you can be flexible, right? You can change things if things need to be changed. And I think I need to. I think the time has come. What I'm interested in is how is it going to affect sales, right? Things are going to die down? Like things haven't like really died down for me. Yeah, it's slower, but I'm not like upset about it because I know it's slower, right? I don't list like I used to. I don't source like I used to. Like it would make sense, right? My 90-day total, which we never share because it's pointless to share 90-day totals, but it is a third of what it used to be. Right, which makes me kind of sad. Like I remember, but I'm also not full time, right? So having a third of that money and not be full time, like that's great, right? It's a great little side hustle. So I'm just seeing how that goes. I am looking forward to being more organized and staying on top of things. And I'm also, it's one of those things. Don't forget, by the way, it's a new month, so you can order your new supplies from eBay with your coupon if you have an eBay store. The reason I bring that up is I forgot. I threw away $50. I didn't get any tape. I'm so sad about that. But don't forget. I won't forget this time. but but it's one of those things where I can't wait to see how things look when I'm organized, because you kind of get tired, right? You get tired of the mess. And I had a really good system in San Diego. You know, I could literally like sell 10 items and I could pack them and ship them within half hour without a problem. Right now, it's taking a little bit of time because I have to find items and so on. And then I'm looking forward to sourcing this weekend. We'll see what I post on social media. We'll see how it goes. But it's been a little bit, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. So that's it. So, hey, everyone, thank you for tuning into this podcast. I really appreciate all of you listening to us. And make sure to follow us on social media and on YouTube, because you never know when Mike and I will start dropping videos again. Grateful for all of you. And with that being said, make sure to be real.
Be relevant.
And be reselling. Peace.
From garage sales to thrift store aisles, we hunt for treasure, stacking them in piles. Hustling hard, making deals all day, flipping finds, turning profit our way. You hustle